The night sky above the Seoul International Space Research Center hung thick with an unusual silence. Jay Park rubbed his tired eyes, his fifth cup of coffee growing cold beside a stack of scattered research papers. Outside the massive glass windows, the city's lights flickered like distant stars, unaware of the moment that was about to change everything. Jay wasn't your typical scientist. At 34, he had a reputation for being more of a street-smart researcher than a traditional academic. His colleagues often joked that he could smell an interesting discovery from miles away, and tonight was proving them right. The radio telescope's monitoring screen flickered with an irregular pattern, something that made Jay's instincts kick into overdrive. Most scientists would have dismissed the signal as background noise or a technical glitch, but Jay knew better. His fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up complex algorithms and cross-referencing the unusual electromagnetic waves. The signal was deliberate, structured, and definitely not from any known satellite or human technology. His phone buzzed. It was Min, his research assistant, who had been working late in the adjacent lab. "Hyung, are you seeing this?" The message was simple but carried the same tension Jay was feeling. The signal grew stronger. It wasn't random. It was a message, calculated, precise. Something was approaching Earth, and it wasn't interested in saying hello politely. Jay remembered his grandfather's stories about survival, how, during the difficult times, quick thinking meant the difference between life and death. Those lessons weren't just about war or struggle, but about understanding the unexpected. And right now, something unexpected was happening. He made a decision that would change everything. Instead of following standard protocols of slowly gathering data and preparing reports, Jay picked up the secure line to the National Defense Headquarters. His hands were steady, his voice calm despite the adrenaline racing through his veins. "This is not a drill," he said simply. "Something is coming." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Data streams, emergency meetings, scientists and military, personnel converging in a complex dance of preparation. Jay knew they had limited time and every second counted. What made the moment truly remarkable wasn't just the potential alien approach. It was how quickly humans could unite when faced with an unknown threat. Researchers from different countries, military strategists with conflicting backgrounds, politicians with complex histories, all suddenly focused on a single objective. Outside, the research center, the city of Seoul, continued its usual rhythm. People walked their dogs, finished late-night work, drove home from evening shifts. They had no idea that everything was about to change. Jay looked at the screen again. The signal was getting stronger, more defined. Whatever was coming wasn't just passing by, it was heading directly towards Earth with a purpose. His mind raced with possibilities. Were they friendly, hostile, scientific explorers or conquerors? The universe suddenly felt both incredibly vast and uncomfortably small. Dawn began to break, casting soft light across the research center's windows. Jay realized this was more than just a scientific discovery. This was a moment that would define human history, a turning point where everything humanity understood about its place in the universe would be challenged. The signal continued, steady and relentless. A cosmic knock on humanity's door, waiting to be answered, and Jay Park was ready to answer. "Would you like me to continue with the next part in a similar engaging, human-centric style?" Part 2. Initial Contact, Expanded Version. Yoona Kim stood at the window of the Emergency Command Center, her reflection a sharp contrast against the massive screens tracking the incoming object. Outside, Seoul was waking up to a day that would change everything. She'd spent years preparing for scenarios most people would consider impossible, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. The military compound buzzed with controlled chaos. Young soldiers checked equipment, senior officers huddled around digital maps, and communication specialists maintained a constant stream of global updates. Yoona wasn't just another military strategist. She was the person they trusted to make impossible decisions. Her phone vibrated. A message from Jay Park, the scientist who first detected the approaching vessels. "They're not just coming," his message read. "They're coming with purpose." The first visual confirmation came at 06:23 local time, What appeared to be a cluster of metallic objects emerged from the upper atmosphere, their movement too precise to be natural. They weren't randomly floating. They were positioning themselves with mathematical accuracy that suggested intelligence far beyond human understanding. Military protocols kicked in instantly. Defense systems across multiple countries activated simultaneously. But this wasn't like any invasion scenario they'd practiced. These vessels moved with a calculated grace that suggested something beyond traditional warfare. Una remembered her training. Stay calm, analyze, react strategically. The global communication networks went into overdrive. Satellite feeds, military, tracking systems, international emergency channels. Everything converged to understand this unprecedented moment. Governments that had been rivals mere hours ago now shared information with unprecedented cooperation. "They're not attacking," one of the junior analysts said, his voice a mix of fear and fascination. "They're observing." The vessels hung in the sky like silent watchers. No aggressive movements, no weapon signatures, just a pure, calculated presence that seemed to challenge everything humans understood about first contact. Una understood something crucial in that moment. This wasn't just a military challenge. It was a test of human collective intelligence. How would humanity respond to something completely unknown? Her team represented a microcosm of global diversity. Analysts from different continents with different cultural backgrounds, united by a single objective: understanding and protecting humanity. A young technician from Brazil worked alongside a veteran strategist from India. Their previous cultural differences dissolved in this critical moment. Global communication networks showed something extraordinary. Instead of panic, most people displayed a strange mix of curiosity and determination. Social media platforms, typically divided, now shared a unified sentiment: "We are not alone, and we will face this together." Military installations worldwide maintained a defensive posture, but without the typical aggressive positioning. It was more like a complex chess game, where every move was calculated and thoughtful. The alien vessels continued their silent observation. No attempts to communicate, no aggressive signals, just a pure presence that challenged everything humans knew about interstellar interaction. Una made a critical decision. Instead of preparing for war, they would prepare for communication. Every possible communication channel was activated: mathematical sequences, universal scientific principles, basic visual representations that could potentially bridge an incomprehensible gap. Her team worked with a precision that would have been impossible just hours earlier. Cultural differences, bureaucratic complications, international tensions, all of these melted away in the face of this extraordinary moment. As the morning progressed, the world watched. Not with fear, but with a collective sense of wonder and determination. Humanity was being tested, and they were going to show these visitors that they were ready for whatever came next. The vessels remained, silent, watching, waiting. And humanity waited back, united in a way they had never been before. Would you like me to continue with the next part in a similar, engaging, human-centric style? Part 3. Technological Response, Expanded Version. David Lee's fingers moved like lightning across multiple holographic keyboards. The research facility looked more like a mission control center than a traditional laboratory, with screens covering every possible surface. Outside the window, the city of Busan hummed with a nervous energy that matched the intensity inside the complex. He wasn't just another computer expert. David was the kind of guy who could solve complex problems while drinking his morning coffee, a genius who understood that technology was about solving human challenges, not just creating fancy gadgets. The alien vessels had presented humanity with a puzzle unlike anything they'd encountered before. Traditional communication methods were useless. Radio signals, mathematical sequences, visual representations. Nothing seemed to break through the aliens' communication barrier. "We need to think differently," David muttered to himself, a habit he'd developed during years of breakthrough research. The global scientific community had transformed overnight. Researchers who would have competed fiercely just days ago now worked in perfect synchronization. Universities, private research centers, government labs, everyone pooled their knowledge. David's team developed a breakthrough quantum computing algorithm that could potentially decode the alien communication patterns. It wasn't just about creating a translation device. It was about understanding the fundamental logic behind their communication. His younger sister, Ji-un, a brilliant linguist, worked alongside him. While David focused on the technological aspects, she analyzed the potential communication structures. Their collaboration represented the perfect blend of technological and humanistic approach. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. By analyzing the electromagnetic patterns from the alien vessels, David's team discovered something remarkable. The aliens weren't just sending signals, they were creating complex information networks that functioned more like living systems than traditional communication methods. It's like they're thinking as a collective, Ji-un explained during a global conference call. Their communication isn't about individual messages, but about sharing a collective understanding. Research centers around the world began adapting their approaches. What seemed impossible hours ago now became a collaborative challenge. Young researchers worked alongside veteran scientists, their combined knowledge creating something truly extraordinary. The technological response wasn't just about defense or communication, it was about understanding. Humanity was preparing to have its first genuine interaction with an intelligence completely different from its own. Quantum computers began running millions of potential communication scenarios. Advanced AI systems worked alongside human researchers, processing information at speeds impossible just a few years earlier. Every possible approach was analyzed, tested, and refined. David remembered his father's advice. True innovation comes from understanding, not just technology. Those words guided him now more than ever. The team developed a unique communication protocol that combined mathematical sequences, quantum entanglement principles, and advanced visual representations. It wasn't just a message. It was a complex invitation to understand each other. Global communication networks transformed. Countries that had been traditional rivals now shared research in real time. The potential alien threat had done what years of diplomatic efforts could not: create true global cooperation. Young technology students from different continents participated through online platforms, contributing ideas and perspectives. This wasn't just a scientific challenge, it was a global human challenge. As night fell, the research facility continued its work. Coffee machines worked overtime, holographic displays flickered with complex data, and the collective human intelligence pushed the boundaries of what was possible. David looked at the latest simulation results. Something was forming, a potential breakthrough that could change everything humans understood about communication, technology, and our place in the universe. The aliens were watching, but now humanity was ready to speak back. Would you like me to continue with the next part in a similar engaging, human-centric style? Part 4, Psychological Confrontation, Expanded Version. Minji Choi stood at the window of the Psychological Research Center, her reflection a sharp contrast against the complex communication matrices covering the walls. The world outside seemed normal. People walking dogs, children playing, traffic moving. But everything had changed. Her team wasn't composed of traditional scientists. They were linguistic experts, psychological researchers, communication specialists who understood that the real battle wasn't about technology, but about understanding. The alien vessels had been observing Earth for weeks now. No direct communication, no aggressive moves, just a constant unnerving presence that challenged everything humans understood about first contact. Minji's breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. While analyzing the communication patterns, she noticed something profound. The aliens seemed to process information in a fundamentally different way. Their understanding wasn't linear like human thinking, but more like a complex network of interconnected thoughts. They don't think like us, she explained during a global conference call. They process information as a collective, almost like a single living organism. The psychological research team began developing a unique approach, Instead of trying to communicate through traditional methods, they started creating complex psychological patterns that could potentially disrupt the aliens' collective thinking. Young researchers from different cultural backgrounds contributed unique perspectives. A psychologist from Brazil brought insights about collective human behavior, while a communication expert from India understood the nuances of non-verbal communication. They discovered something extraordinary. The aliens' collective consciousness had a critical weakness. They struggled with unpredictability. Human creativity, emotional complexity, and ability to make seemingly illogical decisions became their most powerful weapon. The team developed a series of communication protocols designed to introduce controlled chaos into the aliens' information network. Mathematical sequences that didn't follow expected patterns, visual representations that challenged linear thinking, communication attempts that deliberately broke traditional logical structures. It was like playing a complex psychological chess game with an opponent who had never encountered human unpredictability. Minji's younger brother, a street artist, unknowingly provided a critical insight. During a family dinner, he described how street art was about breaking expected patterns, creating something that challenged traditional understanding. That conversation became a breakthrough in their research approach. Global media played an unexpected role. Instead of spreading fear, most platforms focused on human unity, creativity, and resilience. Social media platforms became unexpected tools of psychological communication, showcasing human diversity and emotional complexity. The research team began creating complex psychological profiles. They weren't just preparing to communicate, they were preparing to demonstrate the depth and complexity of human consciousness. Universities worldwide started collaboration projects. Students from different disciplines, psychology, linguistics, technology, art, worked together to create communication strategies that reflected human diversity. Minji understood something crucial. This wasn't about defeating the aliens. It was about demonstrating that humanity was far more complex than any technological or biological intelligence could predict. Their approach was subtle, but powerful. They weren't trying to prove human superiority, but to showcase human potential. Every communication attempt was designed to introduce an element of surprise, of unexpected creativity. The alien vessels continued their observation, but now they were encountering something they had never experienced before, a species that couldn't be easily understood or predicted. As days turned into weeks, the psychological confrontation became a silent battle of consciousness. Humanity was speaking a language far more complex than any technological communication could capture, and for the first time, the alien vessels seemed to hesitate. Would you like me to continue with the final part in a similar, engaging, human-centric style? Part 5, Final Confrontation, Expanded Version. Sung Ho gripped the control panel, his hands steady despite the weight of the moment. The multinational defense fleet was unlike anything humanity had ever assembled before, a perfect blend of technology, strategy, and human determination. The command center buzzed with controlled intensity. Screens displayed global positioning, communication networks, and complex tactical arrangements. This wasn't just a military operation, it was humanity's final statement to an unknown threat. Weeks of preparation had transformed military protocols. Countries that once viewed each other with suspicion now worked as a single unified force. Young soldiers from different continents stood shoulder to shoulder, their training and technology perfectly synchronized. Sung Ho wasn't a traditional military leader. He was a strategist who understood that true strength came from human connection, not just technological superiority. His team represented a global community, experts from every continent, every background, united by a single purpose. The alien vessels had been observing, calculating, waiting. But humanity had been preparing, adapting, growing stronger, with each passing moment. The first move came unexpectedly. Instead of a traditional attack, the defense fleet created a complex communication network that surrounded the alien vessels. It wasn't about destruction. It was about demonstrating human capability and unity. Quantum communication systems developed by David Lee's team now showed their true potential. Complex communication patterns created a web of information that the aliens couldn't easily decode. Each signal was a message: we are here, we are united, we are ready. Military technology blended with scientific innovation in ways never seen before. Defensive systems that could adapt in milliseconds. Communication networks that could change patterns faster than the aliens could process. Tactical approaches that defied traditional understanding of conflict. Sung Ho remembered his grandmother's stories about survival, about human resilience. Those memories guided him now more than any military training. The global population watched with a sense of collective determination. Social media platforms became unexpected communication channels, sharing messages of hope, unity, and human potential. This wasn't just a military confrontation, it was a global human moment. Young researchers worked alongside veteran military strategists. A communication expert from Kenya collaborated with a quantum physicist from South Korea. Their combined knowledge created strategies that were completely unpredictable. The alien vessels began to show signs of confusion. Their collective intelligence, so precise and calculated, struggled with the complex, emotional, unpredictable nature of human communication and strategy. Minji's psychological research proved crucial. The communication patterns they had developed introduced elements of complexity that the aliens couldn't easily process. Human creativity became a weapon more powerful than any technological system. As hours passed, something extraordinary happened. The alien vessels began to retreat, not in a traditional sense of defeat, but in a way that suggested a profound realization. Humanity was not what they had expected. Sung Ho watched the screens, his team working with a precision that seemed almost miraculous. They weren't just defending Earth. They were making a statement about human potential. The final moments were silent. No massive explosions, no dramatic battles, just a quiet demonstration of human unity, creativity, and resilience. As the alien vessels began to move away, something shifted in the global consciousness. Humanity had faced an unknown threat and emerged not through pure force but through understanding, cooperation, and an unbreakable spirit. The world would never be the same again. Would you like me to refine any part of this narrative or discuss the story further?